Thank you for joining our panel today, sponsored by the Unity Church of El Cajon. My name is Susan Jarboe, and today with me I have Kathy Cronin, Dr. Kristine Pass, and of course, Reverend Linda Burdett. Today we're going to discuss another one of Richard Rohr's readings, but before we begin, let's have an opening prayer. So sit back, relax, take a couple of deep breaths. Our Heavenly Parent, we gather here today in gratitude for the opportunity to come together as a community of curious minds and open hearts. Thank you for the gift of wisdom, the joy of learning, and the ability to share our perspectives. As we enter this panel discussion, we invite your presence into this space, guiding our words and thoughts. In humility and unity, we offer this prayer in your name. Amen. If you have watched these panels before, you might know that I am a fan of a man by the name of Richard Rohr, Father Richard Rohr, and he is at the Center for Action and Contemplation in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He sends out readings every day, and this particular essay is called Forgiving Our Thoughts. For Father Richard, true prayer begins with a positive yes, a surrender to God and reality. And he writes, when I entered the Franciscan seminary in 1961, part of our training was learning to avoid, resist, and oppose all distractions. It was such poor teaching, but it was the only way we thought back then. It was all about willpower, celibacy through willpower, poverty through willpower, community through willpower. But willpower isn't what we need, or it's not all we need. We need the power to surrender the will, to face and even to trust what is. Now that's heroic. Anything less is a fruitless and futile effort, because if we start with negative energy, a don't, we won't get very far. See Romans chapter 7. That was the extent of the teaching I received, and it was really no teaching at all. Just don't. When we hear that, the ego immediately pushes back. Some days we have strong willpower and we succeed, but most days we barely succeed. We know the old shibboleth, don't think of an elephant. If we try not to, that dang elephant invariably sneaks back into our minds. Just wait. To actively oppose something actually engages with it and gives it energy. That's why so many spiritual teachers say, what you resist persists. Our first energy has to be yes energy, an acceptance of what is. From there, we can move, build, and proceed, even if in opposition. We must choose the positive, which is to choose love, and rest there for a minimum of 15 conscious seconds. It takes that long for positivity to imprint in the neurons, I'm told. Now, this is neither clinging nor opposing when it comes to facing distraction. Told my novice master I wasn't going to fight my distractions, he would have said, so you're going to entertain lustful or hateful thoughts? But that would have missed the major point. The real learning curve happens when we can admit we're having a thought or feeling and recognize that it's empty, passing, and part of a fantasy that has no final reality except as a source of information. We must listen honestly to ourselves. We must listen to whatever thought or feeling arises long enough to ask, why am I thinking this? What is this thought revealing in or about me? Why am I willing to entertain this negative, accusatory, or lustful thought? We don't have to hate or condemn ourselves for a thought or feeling, but we do have to let it yield its wisdom. Then we will realize it is a wounded or needy part of us that creates these unhealthy thoughts. Our true self, our whole self, doesn't need them and will not identify with them. If we can allow our thoughts and feelings to pass through us, neither clinging to them nor opposing them, and without ever expecting perfect success, I promise that we will come to a deeper, wider, and wiser place. Even our inability to fully succeed is, in itself, another wonderful lesson. Kristine.
Susan, I can see why you like Rohr so much. His teaching, every time you bring one forth, it reaches in very deeply somewhere inside me and touches things and helps me clarify things in ways that I didn't even know I needed. The idea of willpower was what first struck me because science has shown that it's finite. That helps explain why some people seem to have a lot and others have very little. For years, I was one of those people who had very, very little. And I have spent a long time building up my willpower. And the idea of going to the first energy and that first energy being yes strikes me strongly that it could have probably saved me a lot of the years of work that I spent building up my willpower if I had learned this earlier. I really liked too where he said to choose love and let it reside for 15 seconds. I mean, that's a wonderful piece of advice, whether we need more willpower or not. It reframes whatever the situation is and and allows us to see it in a new way with a whole lot more clarity. But the thing that he said that was most pleasing to me is that we should do this without ever expecting to have 100% success. Amen. Again, I wish I had learned that a long, long time ago. And it's something I'm putting into practice more and more and more. So thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Kristine, for your highlights. Those were three important thoughts. Next, Kathy.
I will share my thoughts on this. Um, I took the notes at the very beginning when he started talking about, when he first got into this, it was all about willpower, that it was that you needed to have willpower to achieve these things that, if you failed at it, it was lack of willpower. And I spent a lifetime dealing with weight issues and everything I always heard was, well, it's all about willpower. You need to get up and walk away from the table. You need to get out and exercise more. And the whole aspect of that was, a lack of willpower. And so it was like I get on some diet program or something, which was, crash and burn. It was like you're down to 500 calories and you can only eat this and you're really restricted and it's all about willpower. And in the back of my mind, it became a matter of, when can I go back to being normal again? You know, what was this whole thing? And seeing that is like when you get, and when he said, you know, the don'ts and the won'ts, you don't get far. And which is true. I could lose a lot of weight very quickly, but I would gain it back just as fast. And so there was barely a success. It's like you know, yo-yo back and forth with my weight up and down and go through these crash diets and then gain it back and things like that because it wasn't a matter of changing the habits. And so recently I got involved with TOPS, which is Take Off Pounds Sensibly. And I've been in this for about 15, 16 months. And I've slowly decreased my weight, but what I've noticed is not a matter that it's like, I can't have this and you know, can't do that. And, oh, you know, I need to do this. It's all about changing some of my habits little bit by piece. And now I've noticed that, you know, one of my habits was late night snacking. And now I just realized that was just a bad habit that I've had my whole lifetime. And now I've tried to go through the fact, like, you know, after dinner, not to eat in the evening and creating new habits for myself. So it was changing that energy level and that perception of it and the acceptance of what is. And there are the days that I will have something that I crave because I can do that. And it's about a matter because I'm now incorporating new habits into my life that stem around eating. It's like I always said that I eat, you know, I live to eat rather than eat to live. Well, now I'm starting to make those choices that become aspect of eating for a healthy lifestyle, eating to be healthy. And it's not about the weight as much as it's what makes me feel good and how I feel about it. So a lot of the things is like learning that it's not all about willpower. It's not all about that resistance and the you know don'ts and shoulds and things like that in your life. It's about you know that acceptance. And I like the part where he says that 15 seconds, 15 conscious seconds. It's like if there's something that I need to resist or have a thing, take 15 seconds to think about it, to stop, to pause, to put it in a different perspective. And I really thought that was a great uh, concept of going through life because no matter what it is you might be working with and doing with is like it's those thought processes that get us into trouble sometimes. And just taking 15 seconds to consciously think about what you're thinking, your thoughts are, you know, do that stop and pause. So thank you so much for sharing that. I love what he writes and I love the things that he says because it just is so down to earth and fits into everyday life. So thank you so much, Susan.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for giving us an excellent example of the difficulties we face when we're trying to overcome something. And it's interesting that you too, as well as Kristine, commented on those 15 seconds. And remember, he said those 15 seconds are to be of love. And I think that's so important because often when we're trying to change habits, we hate ourselves. We go through, I'm such a bad person because I overeat, or I don't make my bed every morning, or whatever it might be. So thank you, Kathy, for an example. And Reverend Linda, can you bring us home?
Bring us home. You're already home. I really enjoyed this reading. And you know, the very title, Forgiving Our Thoughts. I learned to become aware of my thoughts long ago in early recovery when I realized the only one who believed the garbage that I came up with 100% of the time was me. And I could convince myself of just about anything, and it would lead back to relapse. So for long-term recovery, I really needed to learn to look at my thoughts. Learning to forgive my thoughts was a much slower process. I would, and I still do, monitor and listen to the thoughts that are going through my head. Not so I can judge them, but so I can kind of check the health of my consciousness. If my thoughts are negative or punitive or anything that isn't the way I normally think, then I can look into my own personal system and see what's going on. Where is my ego acting out, or where am I comparing myself with someone else, or why am I beating myself up for this? Knowing my thoughts lovingly has really helped me change my life and become the person I'm proud to be today. So I love this topic and I thank you for it, Susan.
Well, thank you for your comments, Reverend Linda. And yes, Richard Rohr points out that we can have negative thoughts, even hateful thoughts, and we can forgive ourselves for having them. I'd like to invite the panel to come back. And to our listeners, I'd like to tell you that feel free to put comments. At the end of the tape, there's information on how to contact us. And we always listen to comments that people submit about our presentations. And we'd be happy to listen to whatever you have to say. If you think this subject has been useful and you think someone else might benefit from it, feel free to forward the link to them. And if you like this discussion and you've listened to others that you also like, please become a subscriber and you'll be notified whenever a new discussion is posted. And there are at least a couple a week that are posted. If you have ideas for us, some subject you'd like us to address or uncover or think about, please let us know what it is. We each come up with our own ideas for subjects, and we would love to have other people brainstorm that process. And I can say from experience that Reverend Linda is particularly good at researching things. So if you have an idea, let us know. And even better, if you have an idea you would like to present to us, we would love to have you join our panel. And you could come on just for one discussion to tell us something that's important or meaningful to you. Or even better, you could become a full-time member of the panel. So you can think about different ways you might join us. And how to contact us, that is at the end of the tape. So thank you, panel, for your contributions to this subject. And thank you, listeners, who have tuned in to hear what we have to say. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.